Hi, I am Mario Basile from the Movimento Tradizionale Romano. Today we talk about Latin pronunciation. So let's make a deal. I teach you the right pronunciation of Latin and you teach me the right pronunciation of English. Yeah? Okay. So what is the reason to prepare a video in this channel about Latin? Surely for the beauty of this language and also for love of classical studies. But in this context, the real answer lies in orthopraxy, that is the correct performance of rituals, which is one of the cornerstones of Gentile religious practice. If we really want to give a theological foundation, then we can turn to philosophy, but always keeping in mind that it is an explanation external to the religion itself, but may provide a useful point of view. In fact, the philosopher Proclus, in his systematic work, taking up the Neoplatonic tradition of Jamblichus' line, introduces the process of sympathy in the ambit of the vision of divine providence. If an efficient approach a divinity with the right symbols and words, then a kind of ascensional flow upwards is created so that the officiant gets closer to the divine level of conscience. So returning to the purely Roman practical vision without philosophy, all this is related simply to the efficacy of the cult. But if you see, the pragmatic and the philosophical aspects highlight the same concept. With these considerations in mind, the use of Latin is not ideological, it's functional. Let me explain. Latin is not the sacred language. Languages are an entirely human characteristic. We cannot think of deities which are so limited that they cannot understand other languages. However, every culture tends to defend the antiquity of its own language, thus losing sight of the universality of the message. This happened with ancient Sumerian, with Egyptian, but still happens today with Sanskrit or with Greek or Hebrew, and it also happened with Latin, but not in the frame of the Gentile Roman religion. So today we have the support of linguistics, which is a science, to dismantle many ideological and false castles on languages that claim to be the origin of every other language. Although, sadly, who is blinded by the ideology generally does not accept any reason. Returning to us, I repeat, the use of Latin is not ideological, and it is purely for practical Roman sense of effectiveness in the rituals of the Roman Gentile religion. If not alone the whole ritual, then at least the main formulas and prayers should be in Latin. But how do you pronounce Latin correctly? So Latin pronunciation changed along the centuries, but we believe that the right choice is the pronunciation of the classic period, and we avoid the later pronunciation, which indeed was somehow adopted by the Romance languages. It is a very interesting development, but I keep this out of this presentation. Before starting with each single sound, a general important concept, we will return soon to that, is that in Latin each syllable can be long or short, and the careful combination of syllables of different length gives rise to a rhythm that can be very musical, used in poetry, but also in the finest oratory speech, and also in some rituals, in the formulas that we use in rituals. So let's start with the vowels. In Latin, there are 5 vowels with 2 lengths, so they sum to 10. Furthermore, the Y was added for words of Greek origin. Unfortunately, the length is generally not really reported in the text. You have to look into the dictionaries, but those who study Latin are really encouraged to learn the words with the right length of the vowels. Short vowels are generally not marked, or they have a short mark like a small U above them. Long vowels should be marked by a flat accent, a kind of horizontal dash above, or by an acute accent according to the usage in the classical that was found in some graffiti. I have seen people arguing in favor of a solution or the other. Honestly, I don't care as long as the pronunciation is correct. Let's start. So, short A should be like British cat, for instance, aqua. Long A, like in English father or part, for instance, air, that's air. Short E is like English bet or neck. We have the instance equus, horse. Long E is similar to the English hey before the Y sets in. So evasio, in this case the long E at the beginning is a prefix that is added to verbs to give the idea of movement away. For example, educo, I educate, eludo, I avoid. Letter I, well, the I has three sounds. It can be a vowel or a semi-vowel, or semi-consonant if you want to say. As a vowel, it can be long or short. A short I is like the English sit, bit. We have the example of imago, image. A long I is like the English see. We have ignis. If we go to the semi-consonant I, this is like the English W, like a U or yes. We have Janua, Janus, Judex. Generally, when you find an I in front of a vowel, it is a semi-consonant. The Latin alphabet used the same sign for vowel and consonant I, so the J was introduced much later into the alphabet. We therefore prefer not to write J and keep always I. It's again, to me important is the pronunciation. Anyway, let's go to the O. A short O is like in English not. So we have oculus. Long O could be compared to the American English like no. For instance, no way. And we have ovum, that's egg. And oculus is eye. For you, as for I, there are three sounds, long and short vowels, and also semi-consonant. Short U is like English put, and we have humerus. Long U is like in food, saloon, we have uva, grapes. And the semi-consonantic U is like the English W, so we have vicus. Actually, in classical Latin, there was no distinction between U and V. A single symbol was used, so hence grape would have been written as VVA. Today, it's generally preferred to distinguish, even if some Latin texts use U for both vowels and semi-consonant. Why? In words of Greek origin, we can find the letter Y. Sorry, no sound in English for that. If you know some French, it's read like the French U. Otherwise, go back to the I and pronounce it with the round lips, U. Let's make just two examples. Y can be short, like hypotenusa, or it can be long as hyle. We find it above all in terms borrowed from Greek in the frame of philosophy, mathematics, mythology, etc. We then find some important diphthongs. This may be difficult for English speaker because each letter is pronounced and with the accent on the first letter. The first letter is stressed and the second vowel is acting like a closer. So let's go with example because this is much easier. So for instance we have Kaiser. Kaiser. Look at the A, the first A is stressed. Kaiser. Not Caesar, please. Kaiser. Then we have OE, like Poena. Again, the O is stressed. Poena. Au is read Au, like in aurum, gold. And we have EU, like in seu, it's if. Then, after the review of vowels and diphthongs, we can start with the consonant. So first of, and we follow the alphabet, it's just for easier reference. So first of all, we find the B, like in English, it's exactly like in English. We find the boss, it's ox. In the middle of the word, the B can be doubled in very rare cases, and mainly from other languages. C is different than in English. It's always hard. It's like the letter K. So we will say civis, citizen, and centum, to say 100. Attention, for reasons related to the development of the alphabet, the symbol C originally indicated the hard G sound, the hard G. So we still find it in the abbreviation of names. For instance, CN stands for Neus. C dot stands for Gaius. On the other side, we have also some Latin word with the original K, like calenda, so the first day of the month. So the C in the middle position can, of course, be double, like occasus, sunset. D is like that. Never curled back like in harder. No, it's like the in front, that. So we have domus, casa, it's home. Even the G can be doubled in the middle position like adduco. Then we have F for like a fluvius. Fluvius is a river. And we recall that PH is used in several words of Greek origin, which became F, pronounced like F only later, but originally it was P followed by an aspiration. Since the Romans perceived the Greek F like a PH and did not use their own F in transcription, then we have reason to believe that philosophia read really in this way and not philosophia. Then in Latin, going back to the Latin F can be also doubled in the medium position, like for instance in afflictus, sad. The G is always hard, like in German or as in Greek gamma. So we will say gains. Of course, when I speak of Greek, I speak of classic Greek. So we will say gains. The group GN is not gn, and it is not palatine like ñ, like in Spanish and Italian, but should be like neus. It's really a slight palatization, like the ending in English of the participle, going, etc. So to say I know, you don't say gnosco, you don't say gnosco, you say nosco, and Okay, we have also to add that the G in the middle of words can be double, like in agar, earth. H is slightly aspirated, as in English heat. So we will say homo, man. L is like in English, we have lupus, wolf. In the middle of words, it can be doubled, like the pronoun ille, he. M is tricky, attention, 2 ways to read M. At the beginning and in the middle of the word, it is like in English, mare, to say sea, Carmen, to see poem, and can be also doubled, like admiror, I admire. At the end of the word, the M is weak, almost a nasalization. Surely it is not read as if there were an M followed by a schwa, which give the opposite effect. Let's make an example. Granum. Granum is wheat. So absolutely it is not granum. This is wrong. It should be granum. And even in poetry, the M evaporates. So especially in front of the vowels, you don't hear it. So granum aurum, it becomes granaurum. But if the following word is with a consonant, then the M reads well, like granum bonum. N is like in English. So navis is boat. In the middle of the word, it can be doubled like annus, year. P is like in English partner as pater. It can be doubled like oppidum, fortress. Q is like in English always followed in by U to make the sound Q. That's why in ecus you read only one U, because the first one is really together with the Q. It's like, a K followed by a short W. For example, quercus, oak. You don't read quercus, but quercus, which is quite easier. R is rolled, which can be difficult for English speaker. This sound exists in Scottish, curt, or in Welsh, bright, or also in the New Yorker, city. So it's a little, it's not the R of English. So rex, king. We can double in the middle position like in arrogancia. S should be always hard. Not only at the beginning of the word, but also between vowels. For example, we have Saturnus, Saturn, and Rosa, rose. It can be doubled as in assert, pole. T, always like in top. We have testudo, latium. It can be also doubled like in Attica. X, at the end of words, especially of the third declension, we find it like in Rex. It stands for 2 consonants, K and S. The Z is always Z, like in Zama. Okay, we have seen all the alphabet. Just let's spend a few words about the length of syllables. A syllable with a long vowel or diphthongs is always long. A syllable with a short vowel is long when it is followed by 2 consonants. So with a few exceptions, like T and liquid, like patris. In that case, the A can be long and short. Then there are the endings of the declensions and conjugations to know by heart, which, the endings have fixed length, and so we need to learn by heart. And for instance, the O of the indicative, of the present indicative, is long. So for example, eo, I go, amo, I love, etc. The IT of the third person is always short. Venit, for instance, etc. The good thing is that the endings are not infinite, so you can really learn them. In poetry, feet are defined as a repeated combination of long and short syllables. So, for instance, we have the dactyl, that is long, short, short, and the spongy, which is long, long. And several feet combined together form a verse. Widely used is the hexameter with this style. Ta 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 ta. But of course, in many feet, the dactyl can be substituted by a spongy. So it could be, for instance, ta 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 ta. Okay, so let's take an example from Ovid's Metamorphoses, where you can appreciate the musicality of Latin language when read correctly, maintaining the natural length of the syllables. So I try to read it for you. Keep in mind, I am Italian and I bring my own mistakes, so my pronunciation can be perfect. I'm not native Latin. So, let's go on. Ante maret terras et quod tegit omnia caelum, unus eratto to natura e vultus in orbe, quem dixere chaos rudisindi gestaque moles, nequi quam nisi pondus in es congestaque odem, non bene iunctarum discordia semina rerum. Nullus aduc mundo praebebat lumina titan, nec nova crescendo reparabat cornua poebe, nec circumpus o pendebat in aere tellus, ponderibus librata suis, nec brachia longo, margine terra rumpor rexerat ampitrite, utquerat et tellus illicet pontus et aere, sic erat instabilis tellus, innabilis unda, lucis egensa nulli sua forma manebat, obstabatque alis aliud, quia corpor in uno, frigida pugnabant calidis, umentia siccis, mollia cum duris, sine pondera bentia pondus. I hope that you could appreciate the rhythm by reading that, and it comes out naturally. So let's go with the conclusion. So it was not my intention to make a lesson on Latin prosody and metrics, but simply to explain the correct pronunciation for riddles. This is the pronunciation I follow in my videos, and I really hope that this introduction may be helpful to you. So, vale bene in pace deorum.